Okay, so the first things first, do make sure that you've got the right specification for this one. You're looking for the AQA GCSE Computer Science pseudocode structure. The reason that I say this is because many different companies, many different organizations, many different languages will have their own base of pseudocode, but we want to make sure we're getting used to the one that's going to get us the marks. Now, it's all set up in the same way. There's syntax on the left, where it'll give you kind of like the example of what it's trying to get at. It'll give you the meaning in the middle, so it'll tell you what that syntax is actually trying to get across. And then it'll give you some examples over on the right. So even if it's something like that bottom one, like trying to find how the length of something, it'll give you as close as an example as possible. Now, you should be aware that this is made for, it's kind of to cover all programming languages. So there'll be things that are missing for Python, there will be things that are missing for the HTML and PHP side of things that we're going to look at next, and there'll be some that misses for your mobile and your gaming. It's just trying to get the hang of taking that leap from your data flow diagram to this pseudocode that actually isn't going to be run anywhere. So you've not got to panic that actually it's not going to compile or it's not going to interpret in the way that you want it to run. Now, if we were doing this within our hangman, I'm going to put an example up on the screen now. This is what our code would have looked like in the program. And this is what it would have looked like as the pseudocode from the AQA standpoint. You'll notice that when you're going through this document, some of the things like random number or reading an image that we might get at, what we're definitely going to need to play your cards right, they're not actually existing within the pseudocode setup. However, there are ways and means, and I hope to go through those in the next sets of videos. Now, I'm going to faff with the screen a little bit so I can have those at the front. Now, one of the things you're going to have to take a look at is your data flow diagram. And luckily, because we did all that hard work at the beginning, I know I've got to go through those 3 steps first. That is me generating my 5 random cards. I'm still not happy with the screen. Here we go. Makes it a little bit easier to see. There we go. So I'm going to firstly start off with generating 5 random cards. So I'm going to use the bottom line that's in that AQA specification at the top to just have an array of cards, a bit like that we did within the hangman where we had an array of words, or in our case a list of words, within Python terminology. Right, let's get one of these ones. Let's call it something suitable because this is going to store all the cards. So let's have cards, and I like the way they've put ARR at the end to signify it's an array. Now when we go through later the use of constants, because these cards throughout the game won't change, you might want to kind of use capital letters for this one, but I'd leave it for now. Make sure you're happy with the text that you're putting in there. Now I've sped up this next bit, but what I can do is use the folder that's got all the pictures of the cards in to just make sure that I've got every single one of them. Just if you're not happy with the pack of cards, at least the pictures are helping you decide what you've got there. And again, don't worry, I don't type this fast. So square bracket, should have upped the text size really to make it a little bit easier to read. Then every single name of the card, and because it's text, I'm putting it in the speech marks. Commas to separate each one, and I've got to remember to close the square brackets as well. Then it becomes a game of, well, what other variables do I need? What throughout the game am I going to see that I'm going to need to store information on? Now for that, it's really going to help if I've got my data flow diagram to hand, and luckily I copied it across to another document. I think if I remember correctly, it's on the left hand side of my screen. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of my data flow diagram and see if there's anywhere that stands out that I'm going to have to store. Alright, the first thing, generating the 5 random cards, I'm going to need 5 random cards. I'm going to need to know whether it's generated an ace, a 3, a 4, and a 7, 3, 4, 7, and a 10, for example. I'm going to need to know what those cards are. The player isn't, but my code is. There's no random in the document, which is really annoying, so what I'm going to do is capitalize it to say it's kind of like a function within Python. Luckily len is, and I'm going to find the length of the cards array to find a random card within that one. Now, This is where it gets a little tricky. I could repeat that over and over again because it says I need 5 cards, so I could have random card 1, I could have random card 2, I could have random card 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to leave it for a moment because I think because I've got to do it 5 times or get 5 unique cards, I'm going to want to use a function for it. Your next task would be to go through your data flow diagram and see if there's anywhere like, success count stands out as a variable. Might even suggest that success messages and that sort of thing as well, but we can come back to it. Run through your data flow diagram. Is there anything in there that stands out as a variable or a constant or something you're going to need to store and use later on? I'm going to show you the answer in the next video. Good luck. See how you do.